In this lesson, we do some work on multiplication and division. Firstly, consider multiplication. Examples, we need to expand and simplify the following. The first one, x minus 2 times x squared minus 4x plus 5. Well, starting with the first term in the first brackets there, the x is going to multiply by each of the terms in the next bracket. So x times x squared is x cubed, x times minus 4x squared, and then x times 5 is plus 5x. So we've done that x in the first brackets there. Let's move on to the minus 2. So multiplying by each of the terms in the next. So minus 2 times x squared, minus 2 times minus 4x, then minus 2 times positive 5. And then we need to just collect like terms. So we've got x cubed, there are no other cubes. Then in terms of x squared, we've got minus 4x squared minus another 2x squared. That'll be minus 6x squared. We've got plus 5x plus 8x. And finally, we have that minus 10 on the end. The next one, x plus 2 times x minus 3 squared times x minus 2. All right, now if you notice these two that I've highlighted, if we multiply them, we get the result of a difference of two squares. So we get x squared minus 4. Let's put brackets around that. Then we're multiplying by the x minus 3 squared. So we expand the brackets, x squared minus 6x plus 9. Okay, then similar to before, x squared multiplies by each of those terms. So x squared times x squared, x to the 4. X squared times minus 6x is minus 6x cubed. X squared times the 9 is plus 9x squared. Moving on to the minus 4 now, multiplying by each of those terms. Minus 4 times x squared, minus 4 times the minus 6x, and finally minus 4 times the 9 gives minus 36. So again, we need to see if we can collect like terms there. We've got x to the 4, there are no other x to the 4s, let's write that down. We've got minus 6x cubed, again, nothing else in terms of x cubed. We've got a few x squareds there, 9x squared minus 4x squared, so we're going to plus 5x squared, plus 24x, and then minus 36. Let's now consider division. Now, recall long division. Well, you may not recall it, okay? You may not have done it for a very long time. But let's consider this. 21 divided into 6,810. Now, HMS bring down. Okay, I'm going to get you to remember that little acronym, HMS bring down, where the H standing for how many, the M stands for multiply, S stands for subtract, and then we've got bring down at the end there. So we ask ourselves how many? How many times does 21 go into the first bit, 68? Well, that occurs 3 times. It'll go in 3 times. Then we move to multiply. So we get to multiply that 3 by the 21. We get 63, write it down. Our next step is to subtract. 68 minus 63 is 5. And the final step in the loop is to bring down. So that next digit, in this case 1, we're going to bring it down and write it there. Then we start all over again. How many? How many times does 21 go into 51? Well, this time it goes twice. Then multiply the 2 with the 21. We get 42. Then we do the subtraction. 51 minus 42 is equal to 9. The final step in the loop, bring down. Okay, that's 0. Let's bring it down, making that number 90. And we start all over again. How many times does 21 go into the 90? Well, it goes 4 times. Let's multiply that 4 with the 21. We get 84. Then we do the subtraction. So 90 take away 84, leaves 6. Now, bring down, well, there's nothing to bring down. All right, so we basically finished it. So that 6 is the remainder. We can write that up the top there, remainder 6. All right, now, 6,810, let's write that down, ends up being 21 times 324, and then the remainder of 6, we add 6 on the end. All right, so that's how we can write that. And I've shown you that way because we're going to do a very similar thing using algebra, okay, using polynomials. Examples. we need to divide p of x, okay, the polynomial in x, which equals x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 12. I'm going to divide that by x plus 2. Hence, fully factorize the polynomial. Righto, well let's start by writing that polynomial down. Division by x plus 2, so the big divider sign there, and the x plus 2. And we basically, HMS bring down, we are going to think how many? Multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, that's very good to remember those steps. How many firstly? We concentrate on the leading term, okay, which is x in the x plus 2, and the leading term is x cubed at the moment in the rest. And you've got to ask yourself, how many times does x go into x cubed? In other words, x times what gives x cubed? Will be x times x squared will give us that x cubed. Then we multiply. Multiply the x squared, not just by x, but by the whole thing, x plus 2. We do that, we get x cubed plus 2x squared. Then we subtract. So we subtract that, and you'll find the x cubed minus x cubed is nothing. All right, now if that doesn't go, we've got problems, okay? So those leading terms should always subtract each other out. So moving on, 3x squared minus 2x squared works out to be a single x squared. Then we bring down, so that minus 4x comes down. Let's write it there. Excellent, well that wasn't too hard. Now it's just a matter of repeating those steps. So how many times? Well, that x, again, divided into the leading term of our next line. So x into x squared goes x times. So we write plus x. Then we move to multiply. So that plus x multiplies by the x plus 2. We get x squared plus 2x. And then subtract. So x squared minus x squared, again, that's gone. Okay, like I said, if it doesn't go, we've got problems. Minus 4x minus the 2x is minus 6x. Our next stage is to bring down. And the loop starts again. How many times? Okay, so there's our leading x into minus 6x. In other words, x times what makes minus 6x? Well, it's going to be timesing by the minus 6 there, okay? So that division there. Multiplying the minus 6 now with the x plus 2, we get minus 6x minus 12. The subtraction step, well, if you look at it, they are in fact identical. So the minus 6x minus minus 6x, okay, ends up being 0. But the minus 12 minus minus 12 is also 0. Okay, the whole thing is 0 when we do the subtraction. The bring down, nothing else to bring down. So we've done the division. We can now fully factorize the polynomial. So x plus 2 is one of the factors. X squared plus x minus 6 is the other factor we've got so far. So therefore we can write the polynomial of x equals x plus 2 times x squared plus x minus 6. Now the x plus 2, we can't factorize that any further, so let's just write that down. This one though, we can. Okay, it's a quadratic, should be able to break that up into two brackets. We'll get x plus 3 times x minus 2. Fantastic. Moving on now to the next one. We need to divide p of x equals 4x cubed plus 20x squared minus x minus 5 by 2x minus 1. Again, we're going to fully factorize this polynomial after we've done that initial step. Okay, let's write that down to start with. Dividing through by 2x minus 1. HMS bring down. How many? Multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, how many times? Now, the leading term this time is 2x into 4x cubed. Okay, 2x into 4x cubed would be 2x squared. Then we multiply the 2x squared by that whole term, 2x minus 1. So we get 4x cubed minus 2x squared. Subtract now. Well, the 4x cubed minus 4x cubed, that's out. Then we've got 20x squared minus minus, okay, be plus. 20x squared plus the 2x squared gives us 22x squared. We now bring down the next term, which is minus x, and we start all over again. How many times does 2x go into 22x squared? Well, the factor would be plus 11x there. Then multiplying the 11x with the 2x minus 1, we come up with this. Then we subtract. So 22x squared minus 22x squared, that's gone. We've got minus x minus minus will be a plus 11x. So we'll have minus x plus 11x, which will be positive 10x. We then bring down the minus 5, and we start all over again. How many times does 2x go into 10x? Okay, simply goes plus 5 times. Multiplying the positive 5 with the 2x minus 1, we get 10x minus 5. We subtract, and again, okay, if you can see they're identical, you can actually just put the 0 straight away. But we'll do the longer way just to show you. 10x minus 10x is nothing. Minus 5 minus minus 5 ends up being 0 as well. Bring down, well, nothing else to bring down. So we've done the division there, so then we need to factorize. So therefore, the polynomial in x is equal to, well, that was one factor, the initial factor, and, okay, the quotient we got. So 2x minus 1 times 2x squared plus 11x plus 5. And factorizing further, well, we can't break that up any further, so let's write that one down. However, this quadratic we can. Ends up being 2x plus 1 times x plus 5. Our next example, we need to divide the polynomial p of x equals 2x to the 4 plus 10x cubed minus 3x plus 15 by g of x, which equals x squared plus 7x minus 2. Hence, write p of x equals g of x times q of x plus r of x. Okay, looks pretty tricky. However, one step at a time, we'll find out it's not too bad at all. So let's start by writing down our original polynomial there. Now notice there was no x squared in the original, but we put plus 0x squared as a bit of a placer, if you like, a marker point. That'll ensure that the division runs smoothly. Now what we're dividing by is x squared plus 7x minus 2. HMS, bring down, okay, how many? Multiply, subtract and bring down. Hopefully you already remember that. So start off by how many times does our leading term x squared divide into the 2x to the 4? Well, that happens 2x squared times. Then we multiply the 2x squared with that whole expression there, so we'll end up getting 2x to the 4 plus 14x cubed minus 4x squared. Then we subtract. So doing the subtraction there, 2x to the 4 take away itself, it's gone. 10x cubed take away 14x cubed will be minus 4x cubed. And that's why we put the 0x squared there, just so that it helps us with that subtraction. 0x squared minus minus becomes plus. The 4x squared end up getting plus 4x squared. We now bring down our next term, which is minus 3x. Okay, it all starts again. How many times? So that x squared dividing into the minus 4x cubed, how many times will that happen? It happens minus 4x times. Let's multiply now the minus 4x by that. We end up getting minus 4x cubed minus 28x squared plus 8x. We then subtract, all right, that minus 4x cubed take away itself is gone. 4x squared minus minus becomes plus 28x squared. We get 32x squared. And finally in this bit, minus 3x minus the 8x will have minus 11x. Again, we need to bring down our next term, the plus 15. How many times? So the x squared divided into the 32x squared happens 32 times. Then we multiply the plus 32 with that. We get 32x squared plus 224x minus 64. Subtracting, well, the 32x squared take away itself, that's gone. Now this time a little bit different, we'll get a remainder. Minus 11x minus the 224x, we get minus 235x. And the last bit here, 15 minus minus 64, okay, so it ends up being plus 64. So 15 plus 64 works out to be 79. Now this time there's nothing else to bring down, so that, all right, rather than being 0, is our remainder, okay? The previous couple of questions, we had 0 remainder, but this time we do have a remainder. So we've done that division. We're up to the next bit. Hence, write the polynomial as g of x times q of x plus r of x. And then I'll explain what each term really talks about here. So p of x equals, now that was g of x. This we refer to as the quotient after doing that division. So that's q of x. So we're going to write x squared plus 7x minus 2, the g of x, multiplied by the q of x, the quotient, which is 2x squared minus 4x plus 32. And then that is the remainder. So we're going to write minus 235x plus 79. So that last thing, that remainder, is that r of x. Excellent. Well, that concludes the lesson, a really long one. Probably deserve a little bit of a break before you start your questions. Good luck with those.